Hello, I'm Tom, your friendly neighborhood atheist, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Now, I'm no magician. Matt Dillahunty, he's a magician. So, I'm going to show you a trick. And as you can see, these are brand new cards. I'm going to open these up. But what I want to talk to you about is random. What is random? Now, random is a tricky word because people like to say life did not come out of random chance. Things don't happen randomly. They think atheists live purely by random. It's all coincidence. Well, here's a little something about random. So, I got two decks of cards here, and I'm gonna shuffle them. Don't be too dismayed by my inability to shuffle, but shuffling is what happens. Random chance. Life is random. But random is tricky. Random is how you perceive things. So, got my two decks of cards here, shuffled. You ready for the trick? Okay, here we go. Queen of Hearts. King of Hearts. Ace of Clubs. Two of Clubs. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that incredible? Looky there. I got two hearts and two clubs. What are the chances? What are the chances I would get this particular arrangement of cards? I'll tell you what the chances are. The chances are identical had they been four aces. In fact, the chances are identical had they been two ace of clubs and two ace of spades. But right now, I'm looking at two hearts and two clubs. You know why? Because those are patterns. I recognize two like suites next to each other. This makes sense. If I put down four more cards, all clubs. That makes sense. In fact, 3, 4. I did a hell of a job shuffling, didn't I? I tell you what, that's an amazing job of shuffling right there. It kind of ruins my point. My point is, a pattern appears and we see it. If no pattern appears, we don't see it. It's random. But this is random too. It's all random. But we only notice it when it makes sense. We only notice it when we see a pattern. Now, if you were to see, I don't know, the picture of Virgin Mary in these cards. If I were to lay them all out and you saw a picture of the Virgin Mary, do you think I've laid them out in such a way that you would see the Virgin Mary? Or is it because your brain is hardwired to see patterns that you recognize that enable you to see the Virgin Mary? Now, let me cut these cards, because I did a really terrible job of shuffling them. But I'm going to lay down 4 kings. You know why? Because it's not impossible. I've only laid down 1 king. There's 8 of them in here. So very likely, I can lay down 4 kings. What do you think the chances are? Of course, what the chances are of getting all diamonds? Again, I messed up by not shuffling very well, and I'm not very good at shuffling, obviously. But I see a pattern, and actually, Queen Jack 10, that's a pretty good pattern. And I did get 2 Queen of Diamonds. But again, the point is, had I shuffled these better than the shit job that I shuffled them, I could have gotten any arrangement. I could have gotten all kings, anything that's in this deck of cards was equally likely to be laid down as anything else. But you only see patterns. You only see what makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, your brain ignores it. It doesn't even see it, does not even acknowledge it, because there's nothing there to see. So when you see a miracle, when you see an act of God, you got to ask yourself, is this really an act of God? Or is just something happening that I recognize that is meaningful to me. Because that's all that's really happening, is something meaningful is happening for you. Somebody else can see the exact same thing and it means nothing. Now, had I been playing a particular card game and say poker and lay down a straight or a flush, or I'm not a card player, obviously, but had I laid down something that was meaningful to poker, they'd get excited. But if I lay down the exact same hand to somebody who knows nothing about poker, knows nothing about cards, they would be like, so you lay down some cards, big deal. You only see things that are meaningful to you. Otherwise, it's random. Everything is random. But you see it when it's meaningful. And it's meaningful to you because of your experience, because of your knowledge base, because of your needs in life. You see meaningful things, but really, it's just random. And the same opportunities can mean something to you and be meaningful to someone else, or be meaningful to someone else and meaningless to you. But just because you find meaning, just because you see meaning, just because you see an image, just because you see a picture, just because you see something, doesn't mean that it's actually there. It only is actually there in your mind because your brain has been looking for a pattern. Because randomness is meaningless. So it constantly looks for patterns. It constantly looks for meaning. It constantly looks for things that it recognizes. Because that's what our brains are hardwired to do. So everything is random. But you see meaning because you see meaning. Not because it's actually there. Anyways, I'm Tom, your friendly neighborhood atheist. And don't be getting taken to the cleaners by some card shark who lays down some cards and tells you that they mean something.